Welcome to the latest edition of the ECTAA Travel Insights podcast. Today we are going to be talking about the Package Travel Directive, and I am delighted to be joined by Benoit Chantoin. He is the head of consumer and legal affairs at ECTAA. I want to start very simply. Can you explain, first of all, what is package travel, and then how does this relate to the Package Travel Directive?
Thank you, Paul, for having me. What is a package? The package was the most popular product back in the 90s. It was your typical people were traveling back in the days when you were going to your travel agent, your tour operator, choosing your different product and destination on a brochure. And select and voila, and everything was protected from start to finish, and it was basically carefree kind of product, which has changed since then because internet came, and little by little it became a product among other, and different suppliers were starting to sell directly. Different other product came on the market, and so now it's more a product that is just fighting with the other and competing with the others. And how does that relate to the Package Travel Directive? The Package Travel Directive is one of the first consumer protection legislation in the EU. Basically, it was one of that was the first specific one. It started in the first directive was created in 1990, back in the days, and so it started to apply in 1994, and we had to wait until 2015 to see a revision. So between those 25 years, it's 25. A lot have changed. Internet came, airlines didn't need as much as before travel agent or tour operator to sell their products, so they started to sell directly. Hotels did the same, platform started to appear. And so we arrived to that kind of situation where we needed to adapt the Package Travel Directive to the internet era. And so today, a pandemic occurred, and so with a lot of issues that appeared, and so the European Commission felt the need to revise again the Package Travel Directive, along with other regulation, in particular the passenger rights regulations, to try to adapt the traveler's right to the crisis and try to make it more crisis-proof.
Okay, I guess that a lot of this has to do with prepayments. So people will pay for their package holiday in January or February. They won't be able to actually avail of this service until July or August. Do you think that within the current status quo that consumers who purchase package travel are properly protected?
In our opinion, yes. And they are much more protected than with any travel product. When you are purchasing a package, you will have one of the key rights is the insolvency protection. So if you're a tour operator or travel agent, package organizer, as we call it legally, become insolvent and so can't pay the suppliers and can't basically provide the service, an insolvency protection mechanism, be an insurance, be a guarantee fund, depending on the country, will take over and either will try to make sure that you continue the package as if nothing happened, or will reimburse you or repatriate you if nothing can be done and you're already at the destination. And so that's one of the key and most original rights. You don't find it anywhere else in any other product, goods or whatever. You don't have any insolvency protection. That's only on package travel. And that's one thing that does help a lot when you are actually paying in advance.
And so did this work, for instance, with the bankruptcy of Thomas Cook?
It did.
So was every customer of Thomas Cook was reimbursed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Or it depends on the country, because Thomas Cook was the biggest tour operator insolvency that has been ever known. It was considered as the biggest repatriation in civil times, I think it was called like that. So it was really a big deal. And of course it took time because you are talking about millions of customers. But everybody that did provide the pieces of evidence that they had a contract with Thomas Cook were reimbursed or repatriated at that time.
So if customers are so well protected, even to the extent that in the case of a large bankruptcy that they still get reimbursed, Why does the Commission want to look at this again?
Because during COVID, the problem was we are not touching about the insolvency itself. We are touching about asking refund. Asking refund, usually it's a matter of 1-2% of the packages they are getting cancelled. That's fact of life. Here with COVID, basically all packages were cancelled at the same time. And for most of the package organizer, the money which has been invested by the consumer into their package was already paid to the suppliers. So when they've been asking money, basically the tour operator has been asking money to this different supplier, be airline, be hotel, and themselves being in crisis, never reimbursed. So we arrived to this kind of cash flow stop, which ended up in nobody being able to reimburse the consumer. And so that's why the European Commission, for example, is looking at limiting the prepayments of package organizers, saying, well, if the logic is the following, if the consumer pay less, there will be less to reimburse. Mm-hmm. And if there are less to reimburse, there will be less to protect and so on, so it will be less costly. The problem is it takes into account only the situation of intermediaries. Intermediaries will maybe be limited into what they will be able to collect from the consumer, but that won't mean that an airline won't ask you 100% of the air ticket when you are purchasing a flight, or an hotel asking you 100% at the same time for booking in advance 1 week in their hotel.
So I think this is very important, because the Commission are looking at limiting prepayments, but limiting prepayments to travel intermediaries. They're not looking at limiting prepayments, as I understand it, to suppliers, such as airlines or rail companies. Why is that not the case? Why are they not taking a more comprehensive view of this?
I would say there are two aspects of it. First is usually when you want to revise the Package Travel Directive, you will only look at the Package Travel Directive. And package travel now amounts for only 15% of the total travel product. So there are a lot of different standalone services that are being purchased directly, and they are governed by other legislations. And as long as you don't look at the problem as a whole and just only, if you're only blinkered at just revising the package travel, in our opinion, you won't actually achieve much.
And so is ECTAA's proposal that they should also look at limiting prepayments, for instance, for airlines?
There are two ways to basically limit to protect the payments of the consumer. Either you limit it, which we think is not extremely feasible in the current economy, and seeing how everything is based on prepayment in the value chain of travel, or you can get inspired by the Package Travel Directive and, for example, protect the prepayment with an insolvency protection as we have now. So that would mean that, for example, if an airline goes bust, well, you will get reimbursed, you will get repatriated at no cost.
Does that exist?
It exists in Denmark at the moment. There's
no European-wide insolvency protection scheme for airlines?
No, and each time we ask, it's not really in the pipeline at the moment.
Okay. Well, it seems like a fairly reasonable solution.
That would be, in our opinion, a reasonable solution, because there is another problem, which is when you are looking at passenger protection. It's another unit dealing with this, another DG, which is it's a transport unit. And when you are looking at the package travel, it's a consumer unit. So you will have different, philosophy going on. You will be more inclined to protect the package traveler because it's a consumer protection than actually going for a more ambitious revision of passenger rights.
So if suppliers were to continue with 100% prepayments, whereas intermediaries were restricted in the amount of prepayments that they could take, would this not mean the end of package travel?
That's very simple. Economically, it wouldn't mean much. That means, yes, indeed, that intermediaries won't be able to be sustainable. So they would basically try to escape the scope of the Package Travel Directive, go platform and sell just standalone services. That would be the easiest way.
Does the Commission care about the fact that what they have proposed may signal the end of one economic sector?
I think there is a great political willingness. I would try to be nicer. There is a great political willingness of trying to address the issue that has existed during COVID, and they existed. And 100% agree on that. And they were really sure of how to reimburse quickly the consumer. But what we have seen, what we have been the results, what have been the best practices, for example, the best practices were state aids, and how to get, you look at Denmark, they have been basically exiting the consumer out of the refund loop, refunding them right away, and then created a loan for those who needed to, for all the tour operators that need to reimburse. But all the consumer were refunded pretty quickly, or given the time. But we think that the lessons from the pandemic have not been really taken into account when they've been revising the package travel.
What this brings home to me is that there's a huge role for ECTAA in this. I guess the proportion of your members that have their businesses based on package travel want to ensure that the directive isn't changed to the extent that they are put out of business. There's an existential issue here for a portion of the travel industry, and it's on ECTAA's shoulders, with the support of its National Association members, to make sure that this doesn't happen. So what are you doing about it?
I hope we are doing our utmost to make sure that our voice is understood and listened. I think one of the main lessons that we took from the previous revision was to try to make sure that everybody understands what is a package, and everybody understand what it implies, what the changes proposed by the European Commission implies in terms of practicity, in terms of business, in terms of consumer protection even. Because you can look at the problem from different perspectives in terms of consumer protection. Is your consumer better protected when there is too much protection and it increases the price to an extent that they won't want to purchase the product anymore, and in the end there is less protection? Or do you want to make something accessible, understandable at a reasonable price point, and make sure that everybody, whatever they buy, will be at least protected to a certain extent? That's what we are trying to propose, actually. And that's the kind of philosophy we want to bring. But that means a lot of education. We try to explain that you shouldn't look only at the Package Travel Directive. Look at exactly what it means to purchase a travel or to travel. How do you do? What is the what are the practices? And how to make sure that everybody has a similar level of protection.
Under the previous commission, as I understand it, there was reason to be concerned about this topic for travel agents. Do you think that the new commission, the new focus on competitiveness, on supporting business, will change anything?
That would be too much fortune telling for me. I believe there are some good signs that the Commission might be a little bit more pro-competitiveness. The issue that we usually have maybe is that they need to understand that their travel agent and tour operator are still a very vibrant part of the value chain, and they shouldn't forget it. The issue being, as I said, package travel is a consumer legislation. So if you are a consumer legislation, you will be usually more that your priority on those legislation will be to better protect the consumer at all cost, maybe sometime. And so that's the kind of issues and challenges that we still need to overcome, even with a new commission, even with a more pro-competitiveness commission.
But if you try to protect your consumers to the extent that the mechanism that is used to protect them isn't actually used anymore, then it's clearly not good for them. So I'm just struggling to understand why they don't get that.
Look at the problem from, so we already had a revision which started in 2013 and was achieved in 2015. So we had now almost 10 years of, it was applied in 2018, but we have 7-8 years of practice. But if you look at the numbers, what we considered as package, so you take traditional packages and dynamic packages. If you look at the studies from the European Commission at that time, it was amounting for 40% of the total of travel services sold. We are now in 2021 at 15%. So it has already dropped dramatically.
As a result of the regulation?
As a result of the regulation, as a result of the new channel of sale, dominance of platform, dominance of new, more agile players as well. And those products are not as well protected as with the Package Travel Directive. But does that ended up in being a little bit more allowing more flexibilities in the Package Travel Directive? No, it's not the case in the last revision.
Do you think that the industry has done a good enough job of promoting all of the safeguards that come with package travel?
In some countries, yes. In particular, those which have already a tradition of selling package. If you look at Germany, it's still 40% of the total EU market, and they are still selling super well the packages, but that's ingrained in their culture. But if you look at newcomers on the market, and where maybe packages will amount for 5-6% of the total amount, nothing will help. It's not the better protection that will help much. A traveler, most of the time, the first thing he will look at is a price. And that will drive its purchase. So if you are piling up obligation on obligations when you are purchasing a package, it will make it de facto more expensive. And despite the fact that there is a better protection, an insolvency protection, a better refund system, it won't change much. They will look at the flight plus hotel, and because that costs €50 less.
I would imagine there's a challenge as well, because I think that when you're selling travel, you're selling a dream, right? But if you want to really, you're not going to hook a consumer, let's say, by listing all of the things that are going to be protecting them when everything goes wrong.
If I go insolvent,
exactly, it doesn't sound like a compelling sales pitch.
You can go home. No, it's difficult as a sales pitch. One of the best advantages actually is more. If you book, for example, for a city trip, if you book for a city trip, and usually you will book your flight, and a bit later you go to Roma, or you want to go to Milan for a football match or whatever, you will usually book directly your flight, and then you will go on some booking website to book your hotel. But if your flight is cancelled, you might, and even if you manage to get another flight, you will you are most likely lose another night, and you will have to pay additional money to pay for that additional flight. If you had booked a package, that would have been on the tour operator to find you a new flight at no cost, and make sure that if you lose an hotel night, you will have a price reduction on everything. So that's the kind of right that is actually a little bit easier to sell than just saying, yeah, if I go insolvent, don't worry, you are covered. But still, it's not a well-known fact. It's a little bit difficult to explain sometimes, and usually it's when there is problem. And when you are trying to sell, you are not talking about the eventuality of problem. That's what insurances do.
Is there a chance as well that other types of package deals, for instance, the online sale of hotels plus flights, can also be considered as package travel, and that they might also need to apply the provisions of the Package Travel Directive? Is there some ambiguity there with respect to the definition of what a package actually is?
I don't think there is that much. On packages itself, no, I don't think. What's going on now with the proposal is that they are looking at covering some of what we are considering now as link travel arrangement, which has been a combination that has been not that much sold. It was most used for airlines when they are trying to sell you, in addition to your flight, a car rental, for example. And that was a kind of looser type of combination where you are informed that it's not a package, you have a limited insolvency protection, but everybody is liable for the performance of each of their services. And not that much use, but very complex. And they try to integrate that into the definition of package, but that creates, in our opinion, a lot of issues. Because basically they are trying to tell you that if you are buying something on a website, for example, purchasing a flight on a Expedia, for example, and you are deciding that 2 hours and a half later, I should book so you book your flight, everything is fine, you have your contract, you paid, and all done. So what's going on is normally your flight, that will be the airline that is responsible. The information that you got is what you usually get from an airline, and that's it. But if you book something within 3 hours, for example, on the same website, an hotel, for example, then everything changes. It becomes a package. That's their plan.
Yeah.
But that means that all the information that you got, the contract that you had, everything changed. And that's, for us, that would be extremely confusing for consumer. I think that if a contract is concluded, you should keep the contract as it is, and you shouldn't mess with that. So I think that by the Commission has tried by doing too much is actually worsening the situation.
That's a theme of the discussion. I think overall we have two main messages. One, package travel is one of the best kept secrets of travel. Number two, if you try to make too many adjustments to it and add too many conditions, you're going to destroy consumer protection in the first place, because package travel won't exist anymore.
That's the main issue, and that's what we are trying to explain.
Very good. So listen, Benoit, it's been an absolute pleasure discussing this issue with you today, and best of luck with all of your advocacy efforts.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.